how we're going to do the chapter 3 assignment is to take each one of the player variables that we created last week. So last week we had this. Last week we had this like first-person character, remember, and we were working with like the stamina and the health and the current ammo and the targets eliminated. So we introduced all 4 of these different variables, and so for the assignment 3B, if y'all haven't looked at it yet, it's got kind of 4 different aspects here. So, and I made this 3B because there was like already a 3. So I'm trying to do that. But basically for each variable, we're going to create 4 different elements that we're going to be doing. So one is like, when I open your first person character blueprint, do you have the 4 variables there? The second one is going to be placing the element on the screen. So in the book, and what we did in class last week, right, was building out this like heads up display using the instructions in chapter 3. And then we also had a tying the variables to the actual bars. So that'll be kind of the third thing, right? Is like, did you hook it up to where the numbers will be updated based off of the player variable? And so to do that, we had a content text here, and we created a function here for the binding between the different things. And so here's kind of the general pattern of how we did this, right? So we had this get ammo text, we had a get player character, we had this like cast to first person character that allowed us to basically extract out the variables there. So here we could get like the current ammo, and then we switch that to a text value, and we return that and then reset the player variable there. So that's kind of like the whirlwind of like the first 3 aspects, and that's pretty much like what you work through in chapter 3. And then a little bit of the assignment is kind of like a stretch goal. So for each one of these different elements, there's this updating the elements player variable given your actions. And so it says self-implementing there, but like if you go into chapter 4, like the first 5 pages are going to show you how to do the things for the thing. But I think it's worth taking a little bit of time to try and like think about, right? And so last week, whenever we met, we put together some kind of cool stuff, right? So we put together what was it? The how we're going to do our ammo counting, right? So we edited the main blueprint for the first person character, got the player current ammo, did some conditions, right? And then we allowed the person to go forward or not. And then at the very end of actually, spawning the projectile, we did a set operation to decrement the player current ammo. So some kind of cool stuff there. And I think another thing that's kind of interesting here. So we also could have implemented this instead of the set operation. We could have done something different with linking this together, where instead of using this set pattern, we did the decrement operator. And so we link that in, and then we link the variable. And that's just another way to do the same thing. So that'll do a -1 and set it into the value all at once. So yeah, some kind of cool different ways to run that. And I'm just going to hit play. So here we have all those different things. And this is basically where we were last week, right? So yeah, so hopefully that's some kind of grounding on like how this assignment's going to be. Pretty much if you follow the book, you'll get through 3 and then like half of the things in the 4th element of each thing. And then we'll use some different gameplay things here. So, yeah. So one of the kind of like biggest things with like design wise about why we have like all these different variables, right? Like health and stamina and like ammo and stuff is so that you're not like in God mode the whole time you play the game, right? So you've got constraints, and the constraints are really what make it kind of like fun, right? Like if you could do anything, it just kind of isn't fun. And there's some games that kind of like twist on that a little bit, right? So if you've got Minecraft, right? Like Minecraft's like an open world game, but there's still constraints of like health and stamina and things like that to just kind of give you something to struggle against and have to like figure out a strategy. So it's pretty cool to do these kinds of things in it. So one of the things that we worked on last week, and this was kind of as like a free play kind of thing, was we talked about, how can we make the player stamina decrease as we're moving. And so when we worked on this last week, we took a different approach than the book takes, just as kind of like an extension of what we were doing with the ammo and things like that. So last week, whenever we did this, we set up the stamina to add the movement and to reset the stamina based off of a little bit of the walk speed. So we had this kind of being hooked up together to subtract the walk speed times a factor of like 10%, and subtract that from the stamina, and then set that variable back in here. So that was kind of like just playing around with like kind of the tools we knew about like how we can dynamically update things. And in the chapter 3 assignment, like if you kind of go off script and do your own like implementation of stamina, for example, like I think that's cool. So like, if you think about how to do it, and as long as you're updating that variable in some way that's traceable through your heads up display, like I would accept that. But we're going to go through and we're going to go to do some stuff with like how to drain the stamina only while sprinting as opposed to the other. One thing that's also come up with what we did last week is that we didn't really have any consequences for running out of stamina, right? So like here, we just decremented it, but like it didn't mean that like you couldn't sprint or you couldn't move anymore. So those are kind of different things. So the first thing I'm going to do to kind of get our chapter 4 going is I'm going to actually delete what we did last week for stamina and get kind of on track with the book here. So the first thing is going to be kind of setting up some new variables for that. And so to do this, we're going to open up the first person character blueprint, which I've already had up. And we're going to add a couple of variables inside of here. So we're going to add two of these. The first one we're going to call, where you at? First one over here, we're going to call this one sprint cost. We're going to give this one a make it instance editable, which is something that, like, again, you have to do pretty much anytime you create a variable. And that's kind of, again, because of the programming constructs, right? So like you want to have a sprint cost per instance as opposed to a class thing here. And whenever you first set up like the element to be the variable to be on here, you have to first compile the blueprint again in order to set a default value. And for this, we're going to set it to 0.1. The second variable we're going to call is sprinting. In the book, they use a question mark for that variable. I don't like having special characters in my variable names, so I'm not going to do that. And we're going to make this a Boolean. We're going to make it instance editable. We're going to compile this thing, and we're going to set the default value here to false, right? So there we go. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back now and find our sprint block. So we put that thing right down here, right? And we're going to add a little bit of stuff for this space within this comment block to edit things. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a custom event that fires every time we change the walk speed into the sprint set, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to right click here. We're going to do add custom event, and we have this new custom event thing, and we're going to give this thing we're going to call this sprint drain. And this is going to be what it is that creates our like decrement on sprinting now. So there we are. So what we're going to do here is we're going to, after we change it to move here, we're going to do a whole bunch of different things. So here we're going to drag out what happens when this event goes. We're going to say set sprint. We're going to set player stamina, right? We're going to drag that in here, and we're going to update this based off of some of the variables that we have already. So here we're going to drag in our player stamina variable. We're going to do this as a get, right? So sprint drain, we'll get the player stamina. We'll do let's see here. We'll also do something with the sprint cost. So here I'm going to move all this stuff up a bit. So we've got player stamina here. We've got our sprint cost. I'm going to drag that out here. We're going to subtract the sprint cost from the current player stamina. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to look for minus. I'm going to look for a float minus float here. Going to take the sprint cost here, drag this into here. So now we got both of these things. We're going to do some kind of bounding box on this too. So we don't want stamina to ever go negative. So we're going to drag this here. We're going to look for the max function. We're going to look for the max of either the stamina or 0, right? And what that'll do is that'll give us a connection so that the player stamina is never set below 0. And then we're going to drag that here into there. So that kind of gets us set up with like how to set the stamina there. The other thing that we're going to do here is we also want to have a check to see if we have if we have any stamina at all before we run our sprinting, right? So we set up a second variable here called is sprinting, and so we have to kind of like look at that just to make things work. So here we're going to do a branch here. So we're going to do on this set here, we're going to make a branch node to test a condition. And what we want to see here is, is the sprint cost greater than the stamina? So here we're going to do the sprint cost. Here we're going to do greater than or equal, right? And then we're going to link into it is the sprint cost greater than the remaining stamina? And then we're going to drag this conditional onto our branch here. And one thing that you'll notice here, right, is we're bringing a lot of logic here into this sprint drain function, but we haven't yet figured out how to like fire off that custom event yet. So that's kind of where we're headed. So if this, and actually I think keep this matching the book here. Let's see here. I'm going to remove these linkages. Nope. That goes there. This one right here, actually want that to be there. Want to delete that there. So if the stamina is greater than the cost, then we do some different things. So if the stamina is not greater than the cost, then we want to take our is sprinting variable. We want to set that to be false again, right? And so that's where we go with that particular aspect. Part of what we're going to do here too is set this to false, and we also want to update that player walk speed again, right? So what we're going to do to kind of reset the stamina here is we're going to do get character movement. We're going to drag out a get walk speed. Or actually, we're going to do a set walk speed. Boom. And here we're going to resume it back to the default walk speed of 600 instead of the 2400 that we had established before. So now we've got our character movement. We've got this. We're going to do that. Slow down. set your is sprinting to false, and then we've got like a pretty good state here in terms of those things. So that's kind of how that works. Yeah, let me double check here. The last step is getting the timer here to iterate. So we're also going to do, after this is sprinting thing, we're going to drag this out. We're going to do a clear timer here. Clear timer by function name. Here it is. We've got an object here. We're going to go down here to where this function name is. We're going to type in here. We're going to say this will be the function name that's all the way back up here, the sprint drain, right? So we're going to do sprint drain. And we're also going to do, yeah. And I think the way the book's got this thing, we've got kind of a different ordering here, so they want to do this after our clear timer thing. So we're going to do set to here, this to there, and then I don't know if we're going to need an object here for our thing, but there we are. So the last thing to do here is to start this so that we're firing off the event every so often to drain our sprint. So here we did a compile, it worked. There we go, we've got our thing. And just because we've had so many new functions added in here, and they're kind of in a different part, I'm gonna add another comment to all the code in here. So we're going to do this. We're going to do a create comment from section. We're going to say this is the sprint drain based on timer. So the next aspect here is that we had this block, and one of the best reasons to have this whole thing put in a comment, right, is that now we can create just a little bit more space for what we've got to do to actually fire off the event in the first place. So we go in here. We're going to go for the true case where we're setting the walk speed. What we're going to do is we're going to drag this out. We're going to do a set sprinting node that will set our sprint variable. Boom, we're going to set that to true. And then we're going to, after this, start our timer aspect to fire off the events in this sprint drain. So we're going to look for a set timer object. We're going to do it by function name here. Our function name that's going to run here is the sprint drain function. And we're going to set our time here to, let's say we'll do it every half second, it'll do that. And we're going to click yes on the looping. So this will, every single time 5 seconds goes, it's good, or half a second goes, it's going to call the function sprint drain, which is our little event here, and then we'll update the sprinting behavior as we go. So one kind of issue with this as we've got it right now. Does anybody see an issue with the code as it's executed? So yeah. So right now we've got a timer that'll update our sprinting. We've got a function that'll clear the timer out and reset that is sprinting variable. One of the problems here is that if you release the sprint key, we don't switch the is sprinting to off again. And so kind of subtle, but I'm just going to add this so that we don't get into a weird state, right? So this is going to allow us to like disable the is sprinting again. So there you go. There's kind of an issue with the code as it is. And so one other thing that that has to happen with this, right, is that we also want to have the timer removed as well. So we're going to do this. We're going to do clear timer by function name. We're going to add our function name sprint drain, so that whenever you release the shift key, that the code, still does what we think it should. I'm gonna give us a little more vertical room here. Come on, okay, there we go. All right, so now we got our clear function on sprint drain. Now we're gonna do our set is sprinting. Cool. So that should set up the sprint cost and the stamina there. So we should be able to sprint now for only 5 seconds, and when that happens, it will disable the sprint. So I'm going to compile this. I'm going to run it. Walk forward, and now it's not able to sprint because we don't actually have a sprint recharge in this. But what I was able to do there was just run for a while. So here, if I run, here I run, I hit the shift key, and then after 5 seconds, I'm only able to walk because of the way that stamina function works. So yeah, some cool stuff there. I guess the one thing that's kind of interesting here is that in the book, they have this whole thing about if the player stamina is greater than 0. Here they've kind of like then you can do the thing. So like last time, whenever we were running the code, we already did this portion where we did it based off of just if the player stamina is greater than 0. Now that we have a sprint cost in here as well, we can change this to instead of 0 to be just greater than the sprint cost, and that will modify some things. We can also should probably change this to greater than or equal to. So here we go. Let's see here. I'm going to alt click these dots. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do another alt click to remove. Now we're going to have that stamina there is greater than sprint cost. Now we've got our condition to match what's going on with the book for the thing. So yeah, that's kind of a lot of different stuff to start working with all of our variables and stuff to actually make like the sprinting. One thing that's like left over here is that we want to regenerate the stamina in some way. So like as we're playing the game, we want to have the stamina regenerate. And so we had set up this whole thing, this whole mechanism for sprint drain based off of a timer. And this was set by, firing off an event on a loop based off of this thing. Now I think what we want to do is do kind of a similar sort of loop, but based off of the another sort of timer. And so one thing we could do is manually like set off another timer based off of his sprinting being false. But there's already a timer that runs every single time that we play the game, right? And so this event tick is an event that fires off every single second in the game. And so what we're going to do with this event tick is we're going to have it fire off a branch. And our condition here is going to be this is sprinting variable. So we're going to drag this in here, get the is sprinting, pop it into our condition here. And so now if the is sprinting is true, we really don't want to do anything with that, right? So here we're going to do a recharge of the stamina. And so we're going to set up a small delay here so that it only runs this every single a second to do the recharge. And when that's done, we're going to set the player stamina. So set player stamina. And this is kind of like another aspect where we're going to need like another variable to set our recharge rate. So one way that you could do this is to introduce a new variable over here. So you would do the plus sign, add a variable for sprint recharge. I'm just going to have the sprint recharge though be the inverse of the sprint cost. So I'm going to get our sprint cost here. I'm going to get our player stamina. I'm going to add these two together. So plus, add our sprint cost. And then we're going to do another thing, which is like we don't want the sprint value to go above 1, like 1.0. So here we're going to do sprint, get sprint cost. We've got it at, we're going to get a min node that will test whether that value, it will give a return either the sprint value as it's recharging, it'll be less than 1, or it'll give us 1. And so we add that to our set. And so now we should have a sprint recharge mechanism based off of this event tick when the person is not sprinting. So that's kind of what's going on there. And then because keeping your blueprints organized is kind of like the only way to stay sane. We're going to stretch out this blueprint again. We're going to add another combo comment block to all these elements and call this the sprint recharge. There we go. And we'll just oh, come on, move this a little bit.
I have a small question.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a node, an event node, as soon as when the game starts. But every time I try to right click and make that event node, it just takes me to the previously existing event node that exists in the blueprint.
The event tick that's up here, I think, right?
Begin play.
Yeah. Oh, you're doing begin play? It might only allow one begin play. So the one that we're using here is the event tick one, not the begin play one. But let me see if I can get another begin play. Yeah. So I think it only allows you to use that begin play because it only happens once. That you have to kind of fire off all of the things off of that. You can do, I think, parallel execution. So so you can't really do that. So you kind of have to just use that singleton event. You can't introduce it again. Yeah. And I think part of the internals of why that works is that the event tick is actually implemented with a publish subscribe model. So you can have, whenever you drop an event tick into the thing, you're subscribing to that event tick action. And then when it when that event tick publishes, then it fires off all of the event ticks as opposed to some of the other things. Okay. So, yeah, that's kind of the whole implementation of sprinting. So if we go in here, we'll do this. We can run until we can't, and then it'll just walk, and then I can run again, but not for as long because I haven't totally recharged yet. So there, and you can see kind of the lower blue in my HUD there. The width isn't what it should be for that element. You can see how it's kind of partially gray and partially blue, and it's showing you the real recharge from the stamina in real time. So if I sprint all the way out, then that blue bar becomes totally gray. So until you recharge. So the game mechanism there is working, which is cool. Yeah. Last week we kind of already did the next section of the book, which was to get the ammo so that if you were out, so we had to have player current ammo greater than 0 in order to fire. We introduced kind of an interrupt there to stop the projectile from going. So really, if you just follow through the book on the chapter 3 assignment, you can get stamina and ammo and target count just from those examples. One thing that we haven't implemented in either the book or in the lecture last week was modifications to player health. And so you'll need to figure out some sort of mechanism for that as well. Yeah. So yeah, so that's kind of what's going on with that. The next thing that we'll go over is collectible objects, and this will be part of assignment 4, and then we'll do then we'll do the gameplay win condition and getting that kind of set up for the game. So I need to grab some water real quick, but then we'll take like a 5-minute break. Maybe 8-minute break. Come back at 2:40, and be all.